everybody, Ramey here, and today is part 2 of my discussion on your PhD. In this discussion, I am going to talk about what it's like while you're getting your PhD. So you got accepted into a program, and hopefully it's one that you liked. When I got accepted, I had to ask my girlfriend or fiance at the time, like, is this okay? Can we go here? Will you do this? And she said, yeah, I will follow you and support you in this endeavor. So I said yes, and I got in. I was really, this was super scary for me. I was going to quit a job, a high-paying job in corporate, to make nothing. I was going to be, so what I came to realize, when I was applying and I had asked professors, like, how do I get an assistantship? And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, you'll get one. But I didn't realize once I got in, I wasn't just automatically given an assistantship. I had to actually go on campus and find one. A disadvantage for me, I started in the spring semester, so my program department offered students assistantship starting in the fall, so I couldn't just jump in the spring and get one, so I had to find one around campus. Fortunately, my field, instructional design, pretty easy to find assistantships on campus, so I was able to find one really easy. I found a great assistantship at PBS, Public Broadcasting Network, the station, TV station, right? Doing some instructional design work for a year from them. So I got really lucky, got a great assistantship my first year. So I knew I was getting the assistantship was going to pay for my salary, my health insurance, and tuition. Salary was pitiful, somewhere let's say $17,000 a year at the time. This is 2006, so I'm sure they're much better today, but it was just enough to cover my apartment. Fortunately, I had a girlfriend, well, she became my wife then, at the time, who was going to be able to split bills with me because she was working full time. So I had some things going for me there. But I quit my job and I did it. I moved there, and I remember probably the first week of classes. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was walking across campus, and I just couldn't believe, I was reflecting back on how much my life had changed. I went from sitting in an office worrying about all kinds of stuff to walking across campus on a Tuesday afternoon, admiring the beauty of the building. So it was really crazy to do that. But I also knew that there was a lot of work ahead of me because I was going to have to bust my butt in some of these classes. I had to take a statistics class. I was really nervous about statistics, as a lot of students are, because you haven't had this stuff in years. And I didn't deal with it in my job, so I was really nervous about that. The statistics class actually wasn't too bad. I figured out that I was good in math, good in statistics, and was able to easily do it. What I wasn't prepared for were the classes in my field. So my first class, real class in my field, I would say I could understand about 10% of what the instructor was talking about. They were just talking over my head about theories and things. I was a professional in the field. I had a master's degree and had been working in the field for 5 years, and they were just talking way over my head. There was so much that I didn't know. And it really hit me that first semester when just reading the materials and learning all the vocabulary, things that they were talking about that I did not know, I was not aware of. I had not been keeping up with academia at all. And there was a lot of stuff out there that I just wasn't aware of, that you're not exposed to always as a master's student. So, that was a really big wake-up call for me. I became really interested in it. So I started working, with a number of faculty. And one of the things I realized that is super key to a student doing well in their graduate program is getting mentored by faculty. Faculty mentorship, I was mentored by multiple faculty in my department at Penn State, and it helped me tremendously. They did such a good job of taking me under their wing, showing me how to do research, showing me how to write, showing me how to do things that I wanted to do. And it was me initiating that to get to the point where I was able to do that. So some advice I have for you while you're going to school for your doctorate is it's not that you need to determine what your line of research is or what your dissertation is going to be on, but you need to, the earlier you do, the better, because you're going to have classes. I realized what I wanted to do for my dissertation very early on. So I was able to write chapters of my dissertation during classes as part of a project because you would have to do it anyway. So I was able to do that, which helped me significantly. The other thing I realized is I wanted to graduate ASAP, but I didn't want to take too short and like miss out on things. So I spent all my time on campus with my professors, the amount that I could. I went to school in summers. So I was taking extra classes because I did want to graduate in that 4-year time frame, and I did. I think I even might have finished a little earlier. One of the other things that I took advantage of while I was going to school is I was able to get a doctoral minor. So I minored in educational psychology because I really liked the stats, but I took advantage of things. I took advantage of everything I could while I was going. I looked up everything. That was an advantage of me going full time. I highly recommend if you're getting a doctorate, if you can do it, you go full time because you can devote your whole energy, your whole self to it, and you gain so much more. I feel like I'm such a better professor now, and I'll talk about that in my, next part of this, but I feel like I'm so much better now because of that. I had such a good experience. So let's talk about some of the other things. I realized when taking classes outside of my major that they were always going to be quite interesting. You never knew what to expect. Classes in my major, I knew the faculty knew what to expect outside of my major, like some of the stats classes. Sometimes you had to take classes in other colleges, and that was a little awkward at some point. I realized, that sometimes you were going to get like a grad student teaching your class, and what actually ended up happening to me is I talked about my first assistantship. So my second year, I was able to actually get an assistantship in my program, and I actually became an instructor. So what happened is I swear I got super, super lucky. So what happened is my program had a bunch of technology courses, and they didn't have any faculty at the time. They do now, or they did after I was there a few years. They weren't really interested in teaching those tech courses. And I totally get why, because you have to keep up with the technology. It's not your research interest, that kind of stuff. So unless you really love technology, those classes are usually kind of boring for faculty to teach. Me, on the other hand, I love the tech stuff. It's like exactly what I wanted to do. So as soon as my program found out that I knew the tech stuff a lot and really liked it, they hired me as a GA, and I was allowed to teach classes. As a doctoral student, I was able to teach other doctoral students how to use the tech because that's what I knew how to do. It's what I was doing professionally, and I was good at it. And it's what I still love it. So, I got really lucky there. So I got a graduate assistantship that allowed me to teach all the tech classes, which was awesome. Those were also classes I didn't have to take. So because I had a master's, I was able to, take 15 credits off of my degree. So that was less classes. Plus I was teaching some classes. So those were also classes I didn't have to take. So, I tried to, maneuver myself, position myself to be able to graduate quick while learning everything. Other things I did that I thought were really beneficial is I got to know the people in my classes really well. I think that's natural in a doctoral program because you're all kind of going, even though you're going through something different, you're sharing an experience together. And one of the things I realized at Penn State was a lot of the students I was going to school with were international. So what was really cool is I got to learn about so many different cultures while I was going to school. Cultures from all around the world too, from everywhere, from all kinds of different countries. It was really interesting to learn like customs that people had, what they ate, because sometimes they would bring in food or whatever. We would just talk, and we all became friends, so we would hang out, and you just get to know everyone and like how different everyone is and why certain religions or cultures do or do not do certain things. And it was really interesting to learn about how they did or did things differently, or how they viewed me as an American, and stuff like we were really learning from each other. And I think that was an invaluable experience for me that I had over 4 years that I can, never repeat, because it was just such a great experience. So taking advantage of knowing everyone. But the great thing about that was that when you got out, you knew all of a sudden know people around the world. So applying for jobs really helps there. And I'll talk about that when I talk about graduating and afterwards in my next part. Other piece of advice for you: figure out what you need to do when you start that PhD. If you know what job you want, figure out what you need to do. Like I knew I wanted to be a professor, so I knew I needed to teach classes, which I got as the GA. Okay, so I had some teaching experience. I knew I needed to teach face-to-face and online, because online learning was becoming was already really popular in 2008, 2000. It was already really popular. I knew I had to learn how to do both. I had to have experience doing both. I had to do presentations and I had to do research. Now, presentations are pretty easy to do. You know, you apply at a conference, you get in, and you can present. At least in some fields. In my field, it's very easy. In other fields, I know it's very difficult to do a presentation. But the research aspect was interesting because I was getting a lot of conflicting advice. Like, some people were like, oh yeah, you're a graduate student, you don't really need publications. And then there were other people like, you do. So I wanted to err on the side of caution and make sure I had some publications, right? So I was able to work with a research group and I was able to publish. You know, first and you have to really be proactive and make sure you get involved in this stuff, or else you might not get asked to do it. You have to make sure that you tell people, I'm looking for this, I want to do this, and then they'll come to you. But I was able to, you know, get involved in some publications, get my name on one or two. And when I did that, I was able to kind of see between my classes what I was learning and helping people out with their publications. I was able to learn the process and learn how to do it. I was able to learn enough that I was able to sit down with my advisor and other students and start to publish. I believe I finished my doctorate with around 6 or 7 peer-reviewed publications that my name was on it. I was the lead author in some of them, and that's not including my dissertation, which was great at the time. I was super happy. I was very happy with that. So that's a huge thing you need to consider when you're working on your doctorate. But, you know, that's kind of my experience. Those are the things that I really wanted to touch on. But, I mean, there were a lot of times during that doctorate that I questioned whether it was worth it. So one big, huge piece of advice I have for you, if you're not sure, if there's no like light at the end of the tunnel for you, if there's no reason, if there's no job that you're trying to get, it's going to be really hard to finish. I was super motivated, and there were times when I questioned my sanity, when I wasn't sure if it was worth it. Because let's talk about workload. It was a full-time job and a half. It was my life. It was everything I was doing. Between homework, classes, research, trying to do side jobs for extra money. It took up all my time, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. You know, there's not a bad experience I had going to school for my doctorate, but, you know, it was tons and tons of work. I just look back and I can't believe I did all of it. Like, it was a lot. There's a lot to it, a lot of thinking, a lot of energy, a lot of time, a lot of fun, a lot of learning. But I really would tell someone to really consider that and make sure it's really what you want to do. And you will love it if it is. And then I knew people that went through and it just wasn't for them. So make sure it's for you. It's not hard to tell. Like, you know what you wanted. I knew I wanted to be a professor. I knew this is what I wanted. And I still struggled getting through because it was difficult and challenging, which it should be. It's a Ph.D., right? Okay, that's it. Done rambling. Thank you.